He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick got up third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He did a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that? Kermit Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Kermit Whitfield to the 30, to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, FSU. Kermit Whitfield, a 100-yard touchdown. Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the other. It's caught. It's caught. It's caught.
Oh, for the end zone battle. Coleman. Touchdown.
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
A Christmas Eve edition of the Garnet Old Show. Vince, while everyone else is taking a break, we're here live broadcasting the evening before Christmas Eve. How are you? You got any family into town?
No, we just got back from my mom's house, however, so we spent the day there. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. Ryan and I were planning on having a show possibly last night, but we wanted to wait and see how kind of things settled a little bit. To find out, what was going on in the social media world and the types of because all the lawyers are coming out of the woodwork now.
They sure are. Yeah, everyone knows exactly how this will play out on each side. So it's very interesting. Thank you all for watching. The 7,000 of you that watched our Thursday show, 7,000, a new Garnet Old record. Our subs going way up. Keep subbing, keep liking the videos because that lets everyone else know. Tune into the Garnet Old Show. We do a live show every Thursday at 7 o'clock. And then we sometimes do other shows throughout the week based on breaking news and things like that. This was a big week. And by the way, Vince, now I believe if the functionality is working, people can ask questions and comments in X, and they will display on our feed for us to display. So
Beautiful.
That's a new feature.
Beautiful. The more questions, the more comments, the better. It always makes the show more fun. And, as we've often stated, this is a fan-first show. And so we encourage that. And so if you have any questions, please chime in. And don't forget to subscribe. I know Ryan already said that, but subscribe so everybody else can enjoy the goodness.
Taste the biscuit.
Taste the biscuit.
That's absolutely right. Ask a question if you guys have them or your opinions while we're talking. Vince, Thursday, Friday was a big day.
Yeah.
Friday was a real big day. I'm actually celebrating, Vince, the first actual, I guess, step towards FSU becoming independent from the ACC at some point.
Yeah.
Little celebratory.
Oh, wow.
Cigar tonight.
Wow. And I wouldn't need that. I wouldn't need that here. I live not more than two miles from a marijuana farm.
Whoa.
So it's always fun when I'm out on a run. Let's just say that.
Yeah, this is definitely just the tobacco kind of cigar.
Yeah.
Not the sticky, icky kind.
Yeah. Devil's lettuce, as it were.
Absolutely. Well, Vince, we all watched the Board of Trustees meeting on Friday. I think it went right in the middle ground of the extreme of what we thought it may be. And then we kind of gave three levels, like a disappointing, a mid-ground, and all the way. All the way would have been not only announcing you're leaving, but like we intend to leave the ACC by this certain date.
Mm-hmm. But
realistically, what actually happened, which is them announcing in great detail, which we did not expect in great detail what the lawsuit would be, that they're taking it to the ACC. I did not expect them to bring the lawyer on and go through slides and talk through it. What was your reaction to that?
You remember we talked about the night before about how we were wondering what the end result was going to be. And I said, it's going to be a present, and the present is going to be, we're getting the ball rolling, but there might be another little present inside. If you read the document, the complaint, which I did, by the way, I read it all. And I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand all that stuff. I'm not that bright. But in every one of the counts at the very end is the little present. And the little present says, depending on the outcome of what this declaratory request for declaratory judgment is. If it is in Florida State's favor, then you should consider our request for removal from the ACC as of August 14th, 2020.
Yeah, that was interesting, right?
That's correct.
Which leaves the door open if everything went quickly for them to not be in the ACC in the upcoming football season.
Well, that could be. I mean, if that's true,
Unlikely.
Highly unlikely, and not because Florida State wouldn't want to do it, because logistically, I mean, we're almost to 2024 right now.
Yeah.
Those schedules are already in place. We're going to Ireland, right? But I think with the idea being 2025, absolutely.
Yes, and one thing I do want to pop up on the screen, College Football Playoff Edits writes in, what was the biggest surprise you guys took away from the Board of Trustees meeting yesterday? For me, Vince, it was the idea that the main grounds that they're suing on, there's a bunch of things that they are, including in the lawsuit. But the main complaint, Vince, is that based on the fee to leave not being based on reality of damages to the ACC, if they were to leave, and it just being kind of like a made-up number,
A penalty
that applies to all schools, and they call it a penalty. That the clear statement and biggest surprise to me was, hey, if things go our way, we wouldn't have to pay anything.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that was probably the biggest surprise was when I heard the lawyer throw out the number of $0.
Yeah.
Because that is going to be Florida State's negotiation point to start with. Of course, it would be, right? But it would be. I was almost flabbergasted that was the number that he put out there.
Yeah.
And when we went into this, when we knew this meeting was going to happen, you and I talked, Ryan, about how this could be, is there a chance that Florida State could get out scot-free? There is, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But what are the chances of that? I thought that chance was relatively small. But hearing the lawyer say that and seeing all the counts and the amount of detail within the counts, it's possible. Now, I think $0 would, I think it's possible, but I think it would require Florida State literally going to the mat to court constantly to make that happen. I think they'd be more than happy to settle. And so, I talked about this on another show last night, but Florida State's going to come in at 0. ACC's going to come in at 572, right? And then Florida State's going to say, no, we're not doing that. And the ACC is going to go, well, what about 400? And Florida State's going to say, no, we're not doing that either. What about 300? Nah, I don't think so. What about 250? Well, now we're getting a little closer.
Yeah.
Right. And at some point, they're going to come to an agreement in the middle. Florida State is not going to pay $572 million. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The debt that document, if you spend time to read through it and take off your fan glasses, get rid of the names, and just look at it as two entities, and then come back, because there's so much fan, there's so much fan angst about all this. Forget about fans. Read it as if it's not Florida State and the ACC. Look at it objectively.
Yes. Now, Vince, I do want to bring this up. So we heard the report that the ACC actually filed suit the day before the meeting. I want to make
Get it ready to
clear.
go.
Here's the thing, guys. I'm not a lawyer. Vince is not a lawyer, but I did a little just light reading. And just because the ACC filed the day before doesn't mean now FSU is automatically the defendant. Them filing as a plaintiff and then FSU filing as a plaintiff is two separate cases, guys. They don't merge into one case.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Now they can based on merit. Like if a judge rules that, Clemson's not Clemson, ACC, them filing is odd because FSU had not yet done anything that the plaintiff was alleging in the complaint. However, them filing in North Carolina, Florida State filing as the plaintiff in Tallahassee, those right now are two separate plaintiff versus defendant cases. So it's not like I heard a lot of reports from people that clearly, probably have no idea that North Carolina, the ACC is so smart. They beat Florida State, and now Florida State's going to have to go to Carolina. That's not how this works.
Definitely not how it works. And like, only because I have some friends of mine that are lawyers and explain that to me. It's not how that works. It could be that, and the venue is going to be important, right? But it could be that if it's not agreed upon, it could be something that ends up where, if two states can't decide on the venue, I believe is how it works, then it has to go to federal.
Yes, correct.
Right. So we're not sure where the venue is going to be yet. I have a suspicion that the venue for Florida State's case is going to be in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And being a state operation, Florida State is a state school that has been harmed. I don't see that this venue being moved to a different state. By the way, let's throw this up here real quick. Mike Bartz, thank you so
aboard,
much,
sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Vince. One thing I want to make clear is that I feel like the main point was that what we already talked about, where Florida State was saying essentially that the fee, it being called a actual penalty. We talked about that, but I think their backup plan is the whole Florida side of things and the Florida law side of things, in which protects them in certain sense as a intercommerce trade and the whole antitrust thing. I think that's kind of their backup mechanism, and they are relying on that, I think, if the case is tried in Florida, to protect them as a university versus a private entity, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, and I think most states have that. So I don't know that, North Carolina, I'm sure North Carolina has an antitrust policy as well, right? And whether they're written exactly the same, I don't know. But so I think that would be relatively equal per se, except for maybe the home cooking that goes on depending on the venue.
Correct.
But I think one of the main things that's really going to harm the ACC in this is that, show me where the ACC has completed its responsibility to have the interests of its members at heart as the arbiter of their rights and the manager of promoting their institutions. I mean, 3 weeks ago, we have a prime example of the ACC going silent. I mean, absolutely silent.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's to me, that is more of a linchpin than anything else.
I was very keen on one thing that I noticed. First of all, whenever they toss the questions to the members of the board of trustees, they were definitely ready to go with those questions, and they knew what they, of course, right? But Vince, the one lady kept saying, I found this on the internet and that on the internet, and the current agreement is in Carolina. And then they mentioned that if this goes to a lawsuit into a courtroom, then that becomes public document, and we can then have a copy of it. And if they have a copy of it, so will everyone in the ACC, so will the entire internet.
That's correct.
And the ACC does not want this to happen.
I don't think so.
They want people, listen, the whole idea, people are wondering why go through the trouble to have them. They want to make it as inconvenient as possible for schools in the ACC to see if there's a way out of the grant of rights. So you're going to make it extremely difficult, have someone standing there. You're not allowed to make copies, take pictures, anything.
I don't think you're allowed to transcribe it.
You're not. No. So you have to go there and have someone watch you to make sure you're not taking direct notes. And you have to essentially form your opinions and complaints. I'm sure they wrote a majority of this lawsuit while having to sit there in North Carolina, kind of connecting the dots. But the ACC wants to keep it that way. And I think it was a not so covertly veiled threat when she kept bringing up the internet and versus lock and key. And man, if this goes to trial, then we have a copy of it, of course. I think that was a clear threat.
Yeah, I think something that came up to me in all that part of it was that, if you're following, or if you're on social media a lot, then especially rival fans, we're talking about like the grant of rights is available to you. You can go look at it whenever. It's what I didn't understand was there's a separate document, I guess,
Yeah.
which is related to the ESPN media, which is not on the internet. Like
Yeah.
that particular document, I don't care what anybody on internet has told you. No one has seen that. That is the one that's under.
Unless you go to the ACC.
That's the one. And I don't think that they want to. I don't think that they want to have this drag through the courts. I think there's too much. Obviously, we're talking about human beings, right? So there's not perfection. People made mistakes, and I think they want to keep the publicity of those mistakes to a minimum. And because of that, you're going to get a negotiation from here. I put that text or that comment up there because I meant to talk about it. But bye Bosworth.
Brian Bosworth, hopefully.
You have the right idea about this, right? There are too many rival fans out there that are thinking, Florida State should just quit whining and just take it. Just wear this for the next 13 years. No, we're all in this same boat together, all of us. So, but thank you for being more far-sighted than a lot of the people that I've seen.
Yeah, I do want to bring up a question from Michael Newton. I agree with what FSU is doing by suing the ACC. My question is why the ACC is not suing ESPN. So here's the thing. ESPN is the financial backing of the ACC, so it would be counterproductive for the ACC to sue ESPN because that puts their media deal and their current broadcast rights into peril, and that's the only thing that gives the ACC a heartbeat.
Yeah, and the ACC has been the ESPN has had a sweet deal with the ACC from the beginning, so much so that the ESPN has the opportunity to decide in 2027 whether they want to continue on or not.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we, what do you mean? Are we going to continue on or not? That's what happened to the Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly.
We understand what's happening here. And for anybody that's in the chat here that's from a rival fan base or whatever, start telling people this. Like, we are all in this boat. The ACC is not in a point of strength. They're not in a position of strength. And they've shown that over and over again. And we all understand what ironclad means now. That's correct. CFB playoff edits. And I would amend your name to be CFB invitational edits. But we all understand what ironclad means. Ironclad means it's locked away in a room and nobody can look at it.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, Vince. The ACC already knows that 2027 option for ESPN is there. So if ESPN wants to say, you know what, we don't want to broadcast ACC games anymore, and that would be the end of that. And who would the ACC go to then as the primary broadcast partner? Nobody would want them. So the ACC is not going to sue ESPN to speed up that process. They're not going to risk, pissing ESPN off and getting to that point quicker. So the best thing for the ACC as a conference itself, not about its members. And this is what's important. For the longest time, the ACC itself, the private entity, has been looking out for its own survival and not what's best for its member institutions.
That's correct. I mean, if you look at the decisions that were made, and there's some, I don't want to get into detail about all this, but there's some decisions that were made and that were, I don't want to say forced, but strongly suggested on the conference just to for the possibility of getting a network. Like, we are not going to even continue conversations unless you get all these ducks in a row that are locked in before we're even thinking about a network.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is like coercion. Like, what is the other option? The other option is I'm getting out of this conference, but I'm going to pay this exorbitant penalty to get out of it. Like, that is, you're not bargaining with people on even ground, as much even ground as you can get.
Yeah.
Right. Ed Lemex asked, did FSU know about the 2027 option? Probably not until they got the escort in to look at the documents.
That's correct. Yeah, the people are confusing two things. FSU did sign the grant of right, or was part of that process. However, they were not made privy. The ACC themselves, the entity, made the deal with ESPN on behalf of the member institutions. So they said it several times in the broadcast that the member institutions did not have a voice in the room as far as negotiating that for a better situation for them. And then, Vince, I do want to ask you, what did you make of the repeated claim that during the 2016 year that it was uh, told to them that ESPN has an ultimatum for Florida State? If they don't sign this, like we're gonna drop you guys, so you better sign it. And then that turned out, from what Florida State is saying, not to be the case. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's all going to come out.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, it's hard to believe that anyone, and I think the people that run the schools and have these ability to make decisions are smart. I believe they're intelligent. So all these people that are online saying like, well, you were dumb enough to sign these deals, so you have to stick with it. I don't know. Again, I don't know that these schools were in a leveraged position
Yeah.
to be able to do anything else but sign on the dotted line.
Yeah.
And that's like not legal, right?
Yeah.
So, and until
Essentially, it feels like blackmail.
well, yeah, it's like you either sign this or you have to get out of the conference. And to get out of the conference, it's going to cost you, $240 million. Well, who has 240 million? Wake Forest doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling sorry for any other school. Like, this is the Garner Old show. Like, I want every school to have a landing spot. I do. There's no doubt about it. And I hope that happens. But what's happening right now in the ACC is not a tenable situation. So, and Florida State again, and I know we're kind of all over the place here, but any kind of drivel you hear about, well, why is Florida State doing this all in public? Why can't they do it behind closed doors? In Florida, all this stuff has to be public.
Yeah,
You cannot do this stuff behind closed doors when you are a state government funded institution. It has to be on.
Yeah, and someone had to go first.
That's right.
And listen, I do think them bringing up the point of they felt like they were given an ultimatum and it didn't turn out to be true. I think that is a veiled threat at, we're talking about ACC and ESPN. Wouldn't you hate that to come out in Discovery?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I think that ESPN would not want to come out because ESPN is going to be a party to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if ESPN really has the conference by the cojones, like we all think it does, right? Then ESPN is going to be calling the shots on who settles when, as far as the conference is concerned. You cannot tell me that there are not communications, whether they be forming text messages or emails or anything like that, between ESPN bigwigs, members of the committee. You can't tell me they don't exist.
Right.
They absolutely exist. Why do I believe that? Not because I'm a conspiracy theorist, but because we're all human. Because we're all human.
Yeah.
So I know they exist, and I know that they don't want those things to get out.
Yeah.
So Ed Lemix basically says, sorry, you were about to pull this up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the gore is not really to 20. That's correct. Because ESPN basically said this thing is over in 2027. That's news to me. Like, that was news to me. I didn't know. It was news to
everyone.
Everyone thought that anybody in the conference was locked in till 2036. Not the case. Not the case at all.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that you brought up, Vince, about the other member institutions having a problem with what we're doing, I think it's extremely short-sighted, like the Wake Forest and Dukes of the world. If I were them and if I was in their shoes, I would be on the phone with the Big 12 and trying to find a landing spot, or even understand, hey, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, they might bounce, but this will probably be better for a Duke or Wake Forest or someone like that, because it'll probably make them look better because if they end up winning the ACC, whatever's left of the ACC, and if they bring in more teams, let's say they bring in a USF or something like, a team like that. Well, hey, now let's say Duke or Wake Forest goes 11 wins because they didn't have to play Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, Clemson. So I don't understand the short-sightedness, and they are locked in until 2027 with the existing media deal that ESPN already had in place, meaning that they have a few years to figure this out. And if Florida State and other teams leave, ESPN still has to evenly distribute the revenue among the remaining schools, which would be more money in the short term for schools like Wake Forest.
Yeah. Speaking of other schools, I want to throw and this is not really related to what we're discussing here, but I want to throw this in here because I think it's important. If other Knoll YouTubers and fans would show respect to the Canes, y'all would have more out. Let me tell you about this show. Ryan and I don't have any problem, poking a little fun at the rivals every now and then. We do. I mean, it's part of what makes college football so much fun. But what we will not do is conference wave. I will never conference wave because I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The other thing we will not do is we're not going to pretend that Miami isn't a valuable brand. It is. It is a valuable brand. Fans bring all this stuff down into the gutter, right? And but don't get me wrong, Ryan and I will occasionally throw a couple barbs out there because that's what makes it fun.
And let me be honest, if Florida State had not been the first one, let's say if Miami had done this and they filed the lawsuit, I'd be cheering on Miami saying, go Miami, go.
Absolutely be doing it.
Yeah. Because no matter what happens,
we all win.
We all win because if Florida State, no matter how they get out of this, let's say the settlement ends up being $185 million, Vince. Well, now Clemson goes, yes, please. I would also like the $185 million deal. So does Miami, and so do these other teams. They all win by what we're doing. So I don't understand, especially, by the way, you didn't hear any strong comments by athletic directors from Clemson.
No.
Or Miami. You only heard them from the Wake Forest of the world that, listen, they're not a football power school. That's not what they're about. And they always bring up, it's a fine. ACC is a fine academic. It's great. I'm so happy you guys care about academics. Academics is important. But Florida State is a football revenue-driven school, and so is Miami, and so is Clemson. And so those teams are hoping, I promise you right now, the people at the top of Clemson are sitting in their offices right now saying, not only watching our court case and hoping that it turns out good for us, but also seeing how it goes along the way as they prep for their own potential lawsuits. That's how this is going.
That's how it's going. And again, some of the things I've seen online, Miami fans, again, just saying things like, well, you're barking too much. Why are you doing this why aren't you doing this behind closed doors? It can't be done behind closed doors. Miami's private. They're a private school. So they are not subject to the laws that Florida State is, right? So if they're doing stuff behind closed doors, good. I hope they are. I hope Clemson is too. So people saying, I bet you Miami is doing this. I'm glad. I am glad they are. It can't be. Florida State, for better or for worse, is the first one to challenge this. Yeah. And in the end, I think we're all going to benefit. I don't know. And I get the angst from the schools that are not college football powers. I do. But it's not like they're going to stop playing football.
Yeah.
Right. The deal is that no matter what happens, no matter the ACC could start giving every school in the conference $90 million a year. Mm-hmm. It's not going to change what the non-football powerhouses do. And the reason why I know that is because as the money has gone up, what has really happened to those schools?
Correct.
And if I was an alum of those, I would want the team to be as good as possible, but I would not expect them to become like blue blood status. I wouldn't. And I do think the majority, if not all of the ACC teams, do have a landing place when this whole thing goes crazy.
I do want to put up a comment from Raj, who is a Miami fan. He says,
And
we are
big time friend of the program, by the way.
absolutely.
So, Raj, tell all your Kane fans, your friends, that we are not your typical drivel here.
Absolutely. He says, we are preparing, letting you guys make the path and spotlight in this. Yeah, Miami fans should be excited that we are doing this because it will only serve to help them.
And it's going to help everybody. The question is how much that negotiation is and how much Florida State gets out the door with. So, for example, if it ends up being that, if that negotiation comes down to like, you know what, Florida State, we'll accept $100 million. Then there's a lot more ACC schools that can hit that hurdle, that can make that hurdle. But the higher that number is, the less amount of schools can make that hurdle. You know, Brian and I have said this for over a year now. If it was just the exit fee, which is like we're 125 million, 130 million, we'd already be gone. That money is available and ready to go.
Yeah.
So the higher that negotiated number is, the ACC is trying to keep people in the conference for survivability.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind. This is a penalty. This is a penalty to keep people in line.
Yeah, I did. I did hear the comment. I forget what writer it was. Some sports writer wrote that, you know, the commissioner of the ACC went to battle for you guys when you were snubbed from the playoff, and everyone was like, "He did? When did we miss the commit Jim Phillips going to battle?" He released one like paragraph statement that said he's disappointed in the decision.
He's disappointed, but you know he's the commissioner. Never on the network like the SEC commissioner had his commercial basically on the network. We've got the committee chair who is the AD of NC State, which by the way was one of the turn votes to bring in Cal, Stanford, and SMU, who I have nothing against them.
Yeah.
Right. And we have people on the committee that are ACC members. If discovery happens and we have to, and it comes to, and it is requested that that information is delivered on what the deliberations were, it'd be interesting to see what any of the ACC affiliated people on that committee did or didn't do.
And one thing I do want to make clear, I know they said they filed, but the court case itself and the scheduling won't begin probably till next week. I wouldn't expect any formal hearing on this for at least a month or two. The court system is rather slow. For anyone who's ever been through any kind of law related stuff, it's pretty slow moving. Now, what I do hope is that we have an answer by summertime. That way, we can pay the amount. We can announce we're exiting on this specific date and say we're joining this other conference based on the results of the lawsuit before the August deadline of next year, so that we can start playing in a new conference by 25. I think that is the eventual goal.
Yeah, I think so too. Consider this. While ESPN probably, if it had its druthers, ESPN would want this whole thing to stay status quo, right? Because they're getting a bargain for the ACC's rights. I mean, a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
But their other option is, well, if we can't get a bargain for it, let's just blow it up.
Yeah,
because we don't want it at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's what 2027 is all about.
It sure is. Yeah.
So, do you really think they're in the back rooms going, we got to figure out a way to hold the ACC together? Yeah. No, I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, I think they know that it only benefits them in the long run. Even if they want to keep the ACC in the long run, Vince, they can, if Clemson and Florida State are gone and Miami are gone, North Carolina are gone, and there's other smaller schools. Well, guess what? Now ESPN says, you know what? We like all you smaller schools. We think your product is pretty okay. They're not the biggest numbers, but how about this? Your media rights deal is now half as lucrative for everyone. That's
Even
a
if it's
bargaining piece for them.
absolutely, even if it's something almost close to what it is now. If you think about it, say Florida State, Clemson, UNC, Miami, Bolt, okay? And now they have to fill those spots. They have uh, SMU, Cal, Stanford, maybe Tulane. I don't know who the other schools are going to be. I think what they're paying now is worth it for that group.
Yeah. They just
So
wouldn't
that's
get
what
any
I'm
more than
saying.
that.
I think the ACC could actually stay together and probably still be making right about the same amount of money, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Maybe a little less. I don't know. But the other schools that want to compete at a higher level are not going to be able to continue to do so when their rivals, I mean literally state rivals, are making $30 million to $40 million more per year every year.
That's
It
correct.
just can't continue that way. This is what I've been trying to preach to people. It can't continue this way. I'm not going Florida, and what Florida State did on Friday is basically said it's not going to continue. We know what we have. We know we are a top 10 brand,
Yeah.
and we should be paid as such.
Vince, Ed says here, ESPN says they're losing money in the ACC network. You
I
mean
don't
they're
doubt
not
it.
selling enough? I don't think they're getting enough ad revenue from those HD sunglasses, Vince.
Tack glasses.
You got to have those tack glasses, man. Those things probably sell like hotcakes. I mean, every other commercial is the tack glasses. So
I can't own more than 50 pairs of those.
yeah, I mean, it literally makes your vision, Vince, from standard definition to high definition.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I think they're X-ray too, by the way.
Yeah, something like that. Now, Vince, I didn't believe in this kind of conspiracy this past season, but coming into this season, hey, Florida State fans, just get ready for some screwy things to happen on the field. I'm warning everyone right now, officiating wise, when in an ACC officiated game. Now, you would hope that the legitimacy of the game and the making sure everything's on the up and up. But I'm just telling you, FSU just gave the double middle finger to the ACC as a whole, and you've already heard people come out and say that, hey, maybe their CFP snub was because a lot of people didn't appreciate how they handle things in the summertime, announcing their displeasure with the ACC. So now, imagine FSU went from just one finger to two fingers, right? And giving them both. And so I just want to prepare everyone for some maybe less than favorable time slots, maybe less than favorable officiating. Just be ready.
This is exactly what I was going to say. I'm going to throw it in here. It can't be much worse.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that is I had a Clemson fan I follow on Twitter basically say, great, this is awesome. Now Clemson is no longer the number one persona non grata for the referees. I think we all, as fans of ACC teams, we all feel how bad it is. I don't think it's a Florida State problem. I think it's a conference problem. They can't get much worse. So, if you want to throw a conspiracy behind it too, whatever, man.
Yeah, I do want to put this up there. Michael Newton made a good point because the top rated based on eyeballs on the TV, Florida State was right there with the top 5 to 10 teams in the country on how many people were watching. So anyone who says why would anyone even why would the Big Ten want to add a Florida State? Well, that's why.
It's that, Ryan, and it's also getting into the Southeast in general, right? Because that's the piece of the puzzle. That's the piece of the nationwide conference that the Big Ten doesn't have. And I do believe that Florida State is, because you can't say, hey, you've got a spot, right? You can't publicly say that. But the only thing that's keeping Florida State from being in the Big Ten is the fact that they can't have any encumbrances on them. Once Florida State is free of the encumbrances, and what I mean by that is litigation, grant of rights and all that stuff, once that is free and clear, Florida State will be in the Big Ten. The only way they will not be in the Big Ten is if the SEC basically say, and I think the SEC is fine where they are. Like I don't think they want to add more teams.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
The only way they want to add more teams is to keep the Big Ten and Fox from getting into the Southeast. So it would be a defensive, right? So that was the, and to be honest, as a fan of Florida State, I don't want to be someone's second choice just to keep from someone else getting, right? Florida State going to the SEC ultimately would be we only picked you up because we wanted to prevent this other thing from going on. I don't want that. I don't want that. Big Ten me all day long. And I've been on that boat for over a year now.
Yeah, and I think after the ESPN fiasco, this with the college football playoff stub and everything, I think it kind of solidified and sped up Florida State's decision making that, okay, let's go full steam ahead. We're going to take – I think there's been some behind-the-scenes discussions for a long time with Fox that a spot would be available, and now they're ready to go in that direction with a clear path instead of wondering or hoping that the SEC would come and save them.
Yeah, Jonathan Price says if ESPN has not officially extended the contract past 2027, how can the ACC say that FSU would owe grant of rights out to? That's exactly right.
That's the point.
That's the whole point. If there's no deal through 2036, there's no like monetary deal, then this grant of rights is done in 2027.
Meaning the exit fee should reflect that.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It absolutely should. And by the way, Jonathan, is that a Rutgers hat you're wearing? I'm not really sure, but
either Rutgers or Red Sox. I can't tell.
Yeah, I can't tell what that is, but go Rutgers.
Vince, last thing I want to say about the grant of rights situation is God bless Drew Weatherford. When I was sitting in the stands watching him and Xavier Lee fight it out on a weekly basis for who was, maybe gonna cost us the game that week, I never thought Drew Weatherford would be the mouthpiece. He really does when he asks questions or positions things. I feel like he's the guy that's speaking on behalf of the fans. Don't you get that sense?
Yeah, and by the way, how well polished is he? And I don't know how. I'm not a board of trustees, so there you go, Jonathan. Thank you, Rutgers. Very good, very good. I'm actually a New Jersey native. I don't know if those questions are staged or not, but he hit on some important points, and he often does in these meetings, especially as it comes to football. But I'm kind of proud to see that. He's doing an awesome job.
He's still a handsome man.
He's got way more hair than me, and it is stunning.
Yeah.
His hair is stunning.
Vince, any other final points from you on the grant of rights situation?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to know. I mean, other than, the fact that the 2027 year is there, and the fact that, and I'm not sure how this all plays out. So if anybody in the chat read it more clearly than me, but how the commissioner actually on his own extended some time frames for ESPN to make decisions without the consult of the rest of the membership. Yeah. I mean, all that is super, super important. I think I don't think that I don't think we're going to have a long trial here. If this goes through, I don't think it's going to be long, if it even goes to trial.
Vince, I do want to wrap up these points overall with just our favorite banner. Screw ESPN eternally. It's my mantra. And listen, I saw someone earlier post a thing about I haven't been watching any bowls. I'll be honest with you. I started to watch earlier today. I think I saw who was it playing? Duke playing a bowl game. And then the commercial came on for the college football playoff, and I saw Alabama's name there, and I changed. I was like, I can't
do it, right?
It's tough.
By the way, didn't Duke win a game without their starting quarterback?
They sure did. How did they do that?
How did they do that?
Man, people have been every time Kurt Herbstreit posts about like what a great comeback win on an NFL game, they're like, oh, but they did it with their backup quarterback. How is that possible, Kirk?
How is that possible? I just want to throw this in here because this is an important question to answer. If the Gore was done in 2027, teams would already have been gone. This stuff is all under lock and key.
Mm-hmm.
And, think about how we all live in a social media world. I'm sorry, Ryan, I kind of derailed this.
That's all right.
But think how we all live in like a social media world, and we're all in this echo chamber. And how many, if I was on a show last night and I asked this question, and I asked this question of everybody in the chat right now. What is the term you think of whenever anybody brings up grant of rights? What is the word everybody throws out there?
Ironclad.
Ironclad. That's exactly right. Everybody says ironclad. Why is that? The reason why everybody says that is because that's what everybody says. Then people get to see the document and they get to actually pick it apart. This thing's been literally like, have you seen National Treasure?
Yeah.
I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. That's exactly what this has been like.
Yeah, you have to go to the ACC headquarters.
Now you get people with a legal background that are spending actual time looking at this thing. Maybe it's not as ironclad as people think. And not only that, maybe there were human mistakes made to keep members in line in order for the survivability of the conference, not for the betterment of the members in the conference.
Yeah,
Those
and
are
Raj
those
said
are two
it
different
perfectly,
things.
Vince. Nothing is ironclad, but they want us to think it so we don't question it.
That's exactly right.
If the talking heads at ESPN say over and over that this is this is ironclad, it's no different than Fox or CNN spouting some kind of story in their point of view over and over, and people repeating it on social media. It's the same thing.
Good luck here, Jonathan Price. You have to have the highest level of security clearance to see the media contract in the ACC.
Absolutely. What a great show, Vince.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I mean, there's so much to talk about. And we're at the 47-minute mark.
Absolutely.
So, Ryan and I have a show every week at 7 p.m. on Thursdays. And as events happen, we have other shows as well. While Ryan and I are Florida State grads and Florida State fans, ultimately we are college football fans. Mm-hmm. And so we want to make sure we promote that, and not just about, obviously this is going to be geared toward Florida State. But please, if you have the passion and you care and you would like to spread the word, share this out to your friends, and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already done so. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, I don't know if people realize this. Like you hear that in every podcast and every YouTube video. Like and subscribe. The moment we've seen everyone videos where we get 20 likes, let's say, and very few subscriptions or very few views off it. Then we have videos that we get 200 likes, and it tenfolds our subscribers and our views. So if you don't believe those likes are doing anything, they are. So like this video, and listen, all of you are awesome. We love the fan interaction. We always will have this be a show. Well, of course, we bring topics to the table, but we want to feature each and every one of you every single week in our shows. So, and guess what? You don't have to pay to ask the questions here. We're not doing super chats. So,
correct.
We want you to be part of the show. So please support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. It means a ton to Vince and I.
Absolutely does. And, it's Christmas Eve. So unless some kind of big bombshell drops, Ryan and I will not be doing a show for the next few days or so.
We'll do on Thursday.
Next Thursday we will. And then Ryan and I are both on some other shows as well. Because Florida State is, I don't want to make this sound like obnoxious, but Florida State right now is like the center of the universe right now because of the board of trustees and the litigation, everything like that. Like Florida State is not just the talk of the town in terms of like us internally, but Big 12 people are talking about this. So Ryan and I are on other shows too, talking about this. I know somebody mentioned Greg Flugar. I was on a show with Greg last night. So be looking for us there too. And there's some other folks that you can follow that are not just centric about ACC,
Yep.
Florida State. I mean, there's
Yeah,
a
the
lot
next
of
2 weeks I'll be going on the Renegade Report. So we all help each other out. What's great about the community, there's so
absolutely.
many people watching that we go on other shows, people come on our shows, and it's a big community. Hopefully, you guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so until next time, right? Garnet
Absolutely.
Old.
Hey,
No inside. Oh, go ahead.
everyone have a Merry Christmas. I do want to say
Yeah,
that. Enjoy the family time. I hope you guys get some rest and relaxation and enjoy what's most important in life, which is, listen, I know it feels like football is the most important thing sometimes, but the reality is your friends and family are most important. So enjoy the holiday.
absolutely. And I'm going to do so. And I'm going to continue having a little Christmas cheer here. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. And we always say go Knowles, right? And we always also say send Chiefs all the damn time. If you don't know what that is, go do a hashtag there on my name there. You'll figure out what that's all.
Go Knowles, everyone. Have a great Christmas weekend. See you
Bye
later.
bye, everybody.